available land in the Las Vegas Valley. So I did research and discovered that most of that land was originally given to Howard Hughes.
Now, you actually worked for the Howard Hughes Corporation, and you assisted them. Could you help us? Tell us about that.
Well, sort of what happened was the Howard Hughes heirs, they had a company called Summa Corporation in the early to mid-'90s, and they were having trouble finding certain parcels of the land that they inherited. And because of the knowledge that I gained as a volunteer for the BLM and other research that I did and do at the Clark County Recorder's office, they hired me to help them find certain parcels that they were looking for that they couldn't find. And so that was one of the initial things that got me involved in land use issues and what's going on with land. It started out specifically in the Las Vegas Valley. I helped them identify where 20,000 acres was and was able to get the records from the Clark County Recorder's office and help them organize their situation so that they could sell the land. They weren't able to sell the land because they didn't have the proper records and everything in hand.
Situation flared up. What was your first inclination? What was your instinct to begin research?
Well, I knew right away that the general media was lying. They weren't explaining the right issue. They were talking about turtles at first. Well, I worked as a volunteer in Red Rock, in the Red Rock National Conservation Area for over 10 years on the turtle situation. And there isn't any issue with protecting the desert tortoise out in that area where the Bundy Ranch is. It doesn't have anything to do with that. And the first clue to that came to me in the early 90s after they completed the I-15. They put this huge multi-million-dollar intersection in the middle of nowhere west of Bunkerville. And that was the first clue that there's some kind of big plan going on out there with that real estate out there. You don't put a huge highway interchange in the middle of nowhere. And the first clue to that came to me in the early 90s after they completed the I-15. They put this huge multi-million-dollar intersection in the middle of nowhere west of Bunkerville.
So basically, by putting the interstate intersection, they're planning to build something. And now, with the Bundy Ranch situation flaring up, the BLM comes in. They're trying to force him off of his land. And in the research that you've uncovered, the magnesium dolomite is a rich mineral in the ground, and it has military applications.
Yeah, well, what happened was is in the early '90s, the federal government, Congress, um, uh, ordered that all of the real estate surrounding the Las Vegas area, all of the government land, be surveyed, and
And in the research that you've uncovered, the magnesium dolomite is a rich mineral in the ground, and it has military applications.
yeah, well, what happened was is in the early '90s, the federal government, Congress, um, uh, ordered that all of the real estate surrounding the Las Vegas area, all of the government land, be surveyed. And I actually escorted surveyors out to this Bundy Ranch area, and that's how I first became familiar with it. And I was really surprised when we were exiting that exit there my first time. I was going, what's this huge interchange doing here in the middle of nowhere? And then we go down and we go up, and they wanted to go up and survey up to the Utah border, up in this real rugged mountain area, and I was like, well, what's up with this? And a lot of these surveyors before that, there was a lot of areas that we surveyed where there's a lot of old abandoned mines. And actually, it's a real dangerous situation in southern Nevada. There's a huge amount of old abandoned mines. Almost all of them were magnesium mines. This a lot of the bedrock all around this area is magnesium dolomite. And wherever any of this dolomite exists near an ancient undersea volcanic vent, there's real high quality magnesium rocks. And he explained the whole geological situation about it. And he explained to me that there's like a plant in the Las Vegas Valley that blew up years ago, where they used to pay people to go out and mine this magnesium, and they would sell it like on the open market, and they would get a lot of money for it, and they use it to make rocket fuel. and it was a real big business during World War II, and it continued after World War II for a significant time period. And then that whole thing kind of died down to a certain extent because a lot of a lot of people were freaking out because there's all these holes that are really deep all over southern Nevada. That in these miners, they went in and they dug out these holes, and then they left and they didn't fix anything. So it's really dangerous. And some of the volunteer work that I used to do for the BLM is to go out and put fences and warning signs around these holes. You could be hiking around, and your kid could be running around and fall into one of these old mine shafts, and they're done. And in fact, it's happened quite often. Kids and stuff would get trapped in these mine shafts.
Let's talk about the Harry Reid connection, because the investigation that you uncovered at the Clark County Assessor's Office revealed that they actually have corporations that are bordering the Bundy property. Could you explain in detail?
Well, the way it works is like the Roy Rogers things that my father used to quote is you got to figure out where the people are going to be and get there first. One of the best examples of that is McDonald's. What McDonald's does, McDonald's is not a hamburger company. They're one of the largest real estate companies in the world.
Well, let's talk about some of the irregularities and anomalies that you discovered in the public record. What did you find?
Okay, well, basically, whenever I was researching land, before technology was available, I would go down to the county assessor's office and go through all the recorded land histories of each parcel. So anyway, what I did was I started clicking around. I noticed really strange things going on that are not normal in these types of situations related to the BLM. Basically, in general, the original mandate is that the BLM is managing sections, 640-acre parcels. They're sections. And the only time they're managing a land smaller than a section is if they have a section that borders private land. I started noticing during around 1996 and on, they started acquiring intermingling properties, smaller in smaller sections, and going in and somehow acquiring what used to be private land, and then the recorded history was disappearing on some of these recorded parcels. And I started blowing the whistle on that around 1996 and 1997, and I couldn't get any clear answers from anybody. Like in the county recorder's office, I was like, and they would say, oh, well, it's the federal government. They do what they're going to do. And
now some of these properties had no cost at all. They were basically given to these corporations.
Basically, on that State Highway 170 that goes from that intersection in the middle of nowhere on the I-15 into Bunkerville, I started looking. Usually, those are the kind of places where this kind of stuff goes on. So I started clicking around in the area associated with that road that goes into Bunkerville there, just northeast of the Bunkerville property. And I noticed that a lot of the suspicious land activity started in the mid-'80s. And and there's some of the parcels that I clicked on had histories that were reminiscent from my past experience of somebody having some kind of land battle. Sometimes what will happen is a bank will, you'll get a loan from a bank, and then you'll go into financial trouble, and the bank will try to take your land. And then usually what happens is somehow a big company ends up with it. It's really strange how, and this is strange. This kind of thing doesn't happen in Kansas, but I started noticing it happens a lot in southern Nevada. And you can't get, and it's really hard to, when I go and try to find the original owners, they won't talk. They're scared, these people. And so what I did is I noticed that some of those parcels there had some strange histories that involved banks, like Zion's Bank Corp, and then as I kept clicking, the Reid family name started popping up. And I know from my relationships with some Mormon elders that the Reid family is a very small, tight-knit family, Mormon family, and there aren't that many of them. So if the name Reid pops up in Nevada or Utah, they're related. And so then when I started clicking on the Cedar Development Court, and it looked like that they weren't paying for the land. I mean, there was no assessed value on the land, and it said the county record says that they didn't pay any money for it. And then I started clicking the adjacent USA properties around it, and during the history, the size of those parcels started shrinking, and they always shrunk in related. Similar to the similar time periods that changes happened to the status of some of these other lands, like Cedar Development Court, in these Reid family trusts and these other LLCs that started buying up these lands.
Ask about the Reid Bunkerville LLC, the Reid Family Trust. These groups, these corporations, these trusts, some of them paid nothing for the land. So how does a corporation suddenly just get something for nothing?
Right. That's what I'm saying. What's going on here? I mean, the adjacent BLM parcels started shrinking, and then their parcels started growing. And there's no record of were they buying it or paying for it or what. And I've also noticed in other areas, not exactly in this area, but the BLM buying deeded land for hugely outrageous prices. Small, like there was a parcel down further down the Virgin River there, adjacent to the state wildlife area. They paid over $700,000 for a 10-acre parcel. Now, why? I mean, in that 10-acre parcel, I looked closer at it. It has no strategic value whatsoever. So why would they pay $700,000 for a 10-acre parcel in the middle of nowhere? At the most, it's maybe worth $10,000 or $20,000.
The Bureau of Land Management paid $700,000 for a 10-acre parcel of land. Who did they buy it from?
The history is in there. I identified that particular parcel in my video as I was clicking through the area there, and there's that kind of stuff is going on all over Clark County, all over the place.